I'm going to be your moderator for today for this panel on answering the question, will AI kill the artist? It's embedded into everything. It's in the way we make our decisions, it's in the way we create content, it's in the way we even lose weight. You know, you can go online and ask one of the bots to help you create a workout plan, and based on your diet, what you like to eat, what you want your body to look like, your fitness level, and you'll get everything created. So it's become an inevitability in our society. And with that comes a lot of great opportunities. Things can happen a lot faster, more nuances, but then there's also the question of how far is too far. With the advent of AI-generated artists that are landing multi-million-dollar deals and major labels like Universal partnering with AI music companies, we're seeing a lot of changes in the creative atmosphere and what's going forward. So the question then becomes, what happens to African creators, right? This opens up unprecedented opportunities, but it also leaves us with some complex risks. And that is what we're going to be discussing today. The question is no longer, will AI transform the music business, but how will creators, labels, and rights systems evolve alongside it? And I'm gonna start off by allowing both of my panelists today to introduce themselves, because I'm a big proponent of self-promotion. So I'm gonna start off with you, Boubacar. If you could just grab the mic and tell us what you do and what makes you special and important.
Thank you. Hello everyone, I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for the whole team that put this thing together. It's a great opportunity and a great platform. My name is Boubacar. I'm from Senegal. Actually at the head of the first AI mastering platform in Africa. What we do basically, we help artists and content creators to have access to high quality sounds, right? And also like making sure that we can bridge the gap between artists that don't necessarily have access to high-end mastering studios with those who actually have, you know, those mastering studios, but also with engineering expertise. So we are really into the AI world, making sure that we can definitely bring our stone on the table. I've been working in the creative industry for 15 years. I was a music producer and sound engineer, but also like a creative consultant. So it's an honor for me not only to be here, but to be able to bridge the gap, but also like make creatives understand the potential of AI and how they can apply it to their day-to-day job, basically.
Bonjour, salam alaikum, la PSC. Hi everybody, thanks for having me. I'm Afrotronix, and yeah, I come from Montreal, Canada, and Chad. That's where I was born, and I am the guy behind the character called Afrotronix, and the character of, it's an artistic character, which is, his art is about promoting new vision of Africanity. So what I do through my art is use the new technology through the production of music, the live experience itself, and yeah, using AR, VR to give a new experience to the public, and SaaS. So that AI, which is everywhere now in our real world experiences, that I'm finding a way as well to bring that to Chad on the continent, to help creators. As my colleague said, I started as a producer, electronic music, and I do now try to define what is African electro music. And of course, all these are tools that we need to redefine the electro sound of Africa.
Thank you very much. I'm going to keep the mic with you, Afrotronix. So as you said, you're creating new experiences through AI and VR. And the question is, how can artists who are not familiar with AI and VR start to integrate it as part of their creative process?
Very good question. My personal experience is, first of all, I think AI is a tool, and in order to use it properly, there is a work that you have to do on yourself to why you're using this tool. And in my case is going back to some knowledge that are already available. So there is so much ancestral knowledge. Our ancestors developed so much, there is so much. So yeah, the idea is to get in touch with, to recycle everything that have been already done. Because AI is responding to what you're asking, right? So it's, some ways it's forcing us to have access to some knowledge so you can use it. So the proper way I would say is get in touch in what you want to share first. Now, who are you? And so you can use AI in a way to put a light, brighter, find a brighter way to show what you want to share.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think that's important. The fact that you called it a tool. If we think of any tools from a hammer to any other tool we have, you don't wield a hammer before you have something to nail. So understanding your identity, who you are, what you represent as an artist is the order. And I think that's where it sometimes gets a little complicated, is where people are like, I just want to create, let AI do it for me. But what direction are you sending it in? And do you know yourself well enough to be able to direct this tool? You know, you don't drive a car without a license, because yes, a car can move, but if you spin that wheel a little too much, you could crash. Yeah, exactly, thank you. And Boubacar, I'll go over to you with a question. How is ZenMix Master different from other AI music platforms on the continent?
Okay, I have to say that, first of all, the reason why I started this platform is because I wanted to solve a problem, right? In Africa, we have 70 to 80% of artists that don't necessarily have access to high-end studios or even engineers, right, to have a good quality sound. So I myself, as a music producer and sound engineer, I've always been approached by artists, you know, that have been telling me, oh, how do you achieve like this great quality sound? And sometimes like we can't afford like to go to the studio and pay. And I'm like, okay. Then I started doing research, right? Then from my research, I noticed one thing. All the different platforms that are offering those mastering services use some data set, you know, that are not taking account our identity, our cultural frequencies, you know, and all that. So I decided, okay, to dig deep, you know, to make sure that I can not only check on the different research papers, you know, that were available on AI, you know. There's, I don't know if people are familiar with AI, but there's these large model called transformers, you know, where you could actually go. I mean, there's pre-trained model that you could use, you know, apply it to your work, then train the data on it, you know. That was the first approach, but then when we actually went deep in it, like with the whole team, we saw one thing. We couldn't emulate, for example, the work or like the different sounds, frequencies, you know, of the different type of genres. So we decided to divert and make sure that we working with sound frequencies. Because when you talking about mastering, it's the last phase to polish a song. You know, I don't know if there's a lot of artists here or producers or engineers, but mastering is the last phase. And sometimes, like, you work with sound frequencies just to make sure that the song will fit in every device, but also will sound perfect, right? So our platform is really different from the other ones, you know, that a lot of people use, because we use sound frequencies and data set, machine learning, right? Whereas like the others, they've been training their model on a specific data set and sound. So us, for example, you have a high life music, you have a melodic music, you have, any kind of genre, you can put it on our platform and instantly remaster it. And the thing is, we apply the engineering mastering process, right? From the EQ to the compression to saturation to the whole 9 yards. Like when you take the spectrum of mastering a song, I'm sure like Afrotronix knows about it. So that's what we apply just to make sure that the end user will get a high quality track. So for example, we've noticed one thing, there's artists that go to studios, do a mastering, then upload it on our platform, then the platform gives them a better result. And what we also incorporated in the platform is like we're using mobile money because we know that there's a low banking rate in Africa. So for us, it's really important to tap into that mobile money system, integrate it on the platform and make sure that people can use it, And our fight is to make sure that this tool can be available to anyone in Africa, So yeah.
Wow, thank you very much. As you're saying that, what really stuck out between what both of you have said is that access point, right? AI is here and it's making things easier in many different ways. And what that means is that the standard goes up because there is no excuse to say you don't have the tools or you can't get in the studio or you don't have someone to mix and master when there are products like this that allow that to be the case. And I really appreciate the variability of the angle and the approach that you used, that it's not just a certain sound, a certain genre, it's the frequencies, because at the end, these are all sounds that exist used in specific orders by different cultures, by different creatives to produce an end product. So we don't have to pigeonhole or shrink it to, oh, this is only for Afrobeats, because even with that, Afrobeats has changed into Afropop and all of these things. And innovation is not just from the technical side, it's also the creative side. So when you're creating technology, you should ensure that it can evolve as fast as the creatives are evolving, as well as fast as technology is evolving. So I have a question for you both. Can AI truly, do you believe that AI can truly emulate emotion, cultural depth, or lived experience? And whomever wants to answer first can go ahead.
I think when it comes to emulation, everything will depend on the data that you feed your AI with, right? But I think a lot of people nowadays, they saying, oh, okay, AI is not human, AI can't have emotions, right? But I think that will come back to the approach that you use, for example. If I take, for example, us like working in the AI space on the technical aspect and using also like compute, if we feed the model like with the right data, the right data set, like we can definitely emulate what we're looking for. But then on the emotion side, that will be still like the human part, right? At some point, But there's ways, that you could use your AI to prompt it in a way that, okay, it's kind of like a human behind it, even though there's still that, that gap between human and AI, which is something that will still need like lots of research, lots of work around it. But to my understanding and to the tools that we're using, we're trying to emulate the work of engineers through our platforms and Mixmaster, right? But we're not replacing, engineers.
Yeah.
So, which means that now you can use, for example, our platform to do a work, and sound like a sound engineer, but not replace the sound engineer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for us, that's the approach I can really take to that question, Thank you.
Thank you very very much.
Yeah, I agree on certain points, and for me, actually, music is sharing the experience. So I use music as a tool to share, to say things. So it's hard for me to think that the AI has some experience to share. So that is what makes human music different than machines. But at the same time, as my brother said, it's a tool, so it depends on the data that you provide. And that takes me to a very important point of if we find a way to fit AI with our algorithm, African algorithms. Algorithm from my tribe, for example, because we do have a way of approaching art to express some emotions, and I guess depends of who is consommateur, comment on dit, the consumer, that is related to what the music is sending actually. Some people are let's say in a cinema world, some people are very sensitive to romantic movies, others are sensitive to drama type of movies, and the way that people are sensitive to my music in Chad is so different than the way people are sensitive to my music let's say in Canada. So everything goes from how you use it and what data you provide. And very important is to make sure that we feed the machine with what we want the machine to showcase.
Yes, thank you. And I think that point of AI can't share lived experiences is one that sticks with me because AI hasn't lived. And as we discuss AI, I think one of the important notes to make is that we say AI as if it's a thing that exists on its own. AI is people who are making decisions, who are putting information into a system that is then making assumptions and pushing out other information. And Afrotronix, to the point that you made around AI African algorithms, I think that's the important part, because when we're saying, will AI kill the musician? Is AI dangerous? AI is scary? We don't understand AI. We understand people. People are behind this tool. And then the question becomes, who are the people creating the tools to ensure that everybody else is also included in the creation and are not left behind? And Afrotronix, I'm going to stay with you with that question around African AI algorithms. How can African creators and companies shape AI innovation rather than just react to it? So what are we missing?
So for me, artistically, what I try to accomplish as well is to help to how to redefine what is the Africanity experience, and how to redefine the Africanity, this word as itself, and that goes from different tribes. Because in North America, when people see Africa as a country, actually a lot of people come to me in New York or Canada saying, can you say something in African, which is, that makes sense. So yeah, what is African algorithm? It's hard to define. It goes from the languages. It's all about code, right? And that's what I talked about on my next album. There is so many codes, and the codes goes from languages to a way of moving, to what make me laugh, as well a way of expressing the anger. And sadly, I think so far Africa is in the position of taking all the prêt-à-porter. I don't know how it's
Ready-made.
Ready-made, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to take what is out there and shape it to fit our needs. And that goes from tribe to tribe. And of course, we have something in common in Africa, but there is a variety of of approach or cultural way. So I guess redefining what to do, how to fit the AI with African algorithm is such a challenge, but we already, there is nice basis in terms of rhythms and all the ancient knowledge, and there is so much that have been already done. I can make hundreds of albums, just going from what is already there in Africa. The only thing that I'm scared, I don't have the answer, maybe the brother can help me with that, is how can we fit these machines in a way that we protect all this knowledge? Because we know that Africa has been exploited, and with no return. And there is no celebration to this continent of everything that this continent has already given. And this is la richesse immatérielle, the immaterial wealth is still, I would say, intact. We just touched 10% of it.
Absolutely.
With the AI thing, let's make sure that if we give, to find a way to have the feedback on our society as well. And I guess,
Wow, absolutely. Thank you very much. And I think that is where we need to be, right? Ownership. Because as we've said many times in many of these creative panels, our stories can't be told by other people. And when they are told by other people, they have an opportunity to change the narrative. So imagine now with the speed and pace of technology, what's happening if Africa is being inputted into technology as a country. As a one thing, do you speak African? Are you African? And that also brings about the importance of every African country being involved in AI creation, because what I can experience and share as a Nigerian is very different to what is going on in Senegal, is very different to what's going on in Chad. So even if I were to come and say I'm gonna create the African AI model, it's gonna be very Nigerian because I can't help I can't help but be what I am, right? So you really shed light on the importance of full African participation. You know, people are calling the creative industry the last frontier of like what's going to be exported from the country. And as we're seeing that the creative economy is booming and people are getting excited about it, we also need to make sure that our hands are on the export of this thing, because people who see our value will come in and monetize off of our value, as history has shown us time and time again, and do what they do, and then we'll be left with the scraps. We'll be the producers of the initial product. They'll go, they'll tweak it, and then they'll sell us back our own stuff at a premium. And I don't think we should let that happen. So Boubacar, as Afrotronix just spoke to the ways that companies can shape AI innovation, you are in this market already, doing the work. What gaps do you see generally? And for anybody here, some people here are creative, some people are interested in AI. How do individuals get into this market? Because tech is expensive. VC capital is low, but people want to do the work. So give us some advice and maybe even share your journey of how you were able to enter into this space from all of the other work you did that wasn't really tech related initially.
Well, I mean, I have to first, I think I'm going to start with the last one. All the work that I did previously, of course, some of them were related to tech, because I've always been interested into machines, right?
Mm-hmm.
From an early age, if I remember, like my dad was a computer scientist. So he was the first one who actually told us how to use, computers, open computers, we work with all the different cards and everything. So I've always been into that at an early age, But to say in terms of gap, I'm just gonna start with that. We have a huge issue with the data labeling, like the data collection, right? This is a huge gap. um, because it takes money, it takes investment to go and collect data. But once you collect that data, you need compute. How do you have access to that compute? It takes money. Data centers takes money to build, right? Even like you have access to all those cards that helps you, for example, to train your data internally. Takes money. All those NVIDIA cards and all. But I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done in terms of education and building a community.
Yeah.
If I take the case, for example, in Senegal, we have a very big community called Galsen AI, but also an AI hub, where actually they work around the whole spectrum of AI, whether, they first started with large language models, like training different models on AI, for the local languages. So those kind of initiatives needs to be, for example, replicated in other countries. If I take, for example, Chad today, obviously there's lots of people and that are interested into the AI space or that are already doing work into the AI space. I think coming into the community, sharing knowledge, helping all these people coming up to understand this technology, but also making sure that not only we can share, but we can collect the data. And collecting the data will come with the support of all the institutions, right? I think policymakers, our leaders need to think about the future of African creative industries, right? And we can't talk about the future of African creative industries without including technology at this stage, without using AI at this stage, and there's that gap of data, of investment, will need to be fixed first, but also I think on the other end, if we want to accelerate things,
Yeah.
We need to lay on communities, right? Like we did, for example, in Senegal, where actually now, those, AI communities are the one solving the problems, collecting the data, based on different partnerships that they build with different institutions. But still, it comes that question of data sovereignty. But sometimes, who gives you that money will actually, lead to who owns the data sometimes.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm always saying leaders need to hop on the train,
Yeah.
and understand what we doing now and what we're trying to achieve. Because I think at this stage, if I take, for example, the music landscape, you mentioned earlier, and Afrotronix mentioned, the different tastes, the different sound, the tribes and all. But guess what? Can you just imagine today, all the work that Google did in Africa in terms of large language models? If you can imagine that, you will see that if you take the instance of this platform called Suno,
Yeah.
right? Suno Audio. Of course, there's this ethical, question going on, and all with copyrights and all. Yeah, but I just don't want to get into that.
Absolutely.
But Suno, for example, can replicate different type of sounds from different tribes, right? Everything will depend on how you prompt it. Everything will depend on your knowledge in terms of music as well, and how you rephrase things,
Yeah.
right? So those platforms, they already have some of the biggest data because they've been scrapping all our data, right?
Yeah.
So now us, as Africans, we have certain type of sounds or certain type of tribes, that those people don't have access to. So now it's up to us to go through those tribes, make sure that we collect that data, we train our own models, but still require again investment.
Yeah.
And that investment can be only enabled if the leaders, you know, invest in the upcoming generation in terms of education, in terms of knowledge transfer. That's the only way we can do that.
Yeah, oh wow, that was a lot. That was dense and absolutely necessary. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct. Before we continue, I'd like to welcome Guchi.
Hi everybody. My name is Guchi, and what makes me special is my uniqueness. I'm sure that if someone else walked in here without a purple hair, you'd be like, no, that's not Gucci, right? So that's what makes me unique, not just my signature hair, but my sound. I don't think anyone else sounds like me. Thank you.
Thank you. No, you're keeping the mic. I have a question for you. So recently, because you're on social media, you're on TikTok with over 6 million followers. Recently, a song by Faith called Intentions is going viral on TikTok as a sound. And I initially heard it, and it's being used a lot in different videos. And then I ended up seeing a post of her coming up and saying, yes, that's my song, that's my lyrics, but that's not my beat, and it was AI generated. So for you on TikTok and on social media, what are your thoughts around AI generated trending sounds that are inspired by something that already exists by an artist?
I'm happy you used Faith, because she's also an artist, not just a random person.
Yes.
I think music is an experience, is something that we live before we say or we sing. Music is life experience, it is emotional, it is, cultural, it is falling in love and not falling in love. AI do not have a childhood. AI does not have emotions. So you still need someone to put it into action. And the AI generated song is still by an artist. I guess she told this AI exactly how she wanted it to sound. She gave it emotion at some point, because if you add a prompt to an AI and you don't add certain things, you're just wasting your time. So you still need a creative to be able to put, an AI generated music to life. Yeah.
Yes, and my question is, I'm not sure, based on the way she positioned it, I'm not sure if she was the one who actually created the AI sound. So for you that is on TikTok and probably has more of a background understanding than the average person, what would be her rights to that music? Like, you create music. I was scrolling through your page before we came, and I see that you use your sound over and over to really integrate it into the system. If someone were to now take that sound of yours, have AI generate a Fuji version, still your lyrics, still your voice, and then that Fuji version with the talking drum and everything is now going viral, do you get access to the rights of that? Because it's not technically attached to you, because you're not the one who put it on. Like, what are the risks to that? Because you did give it breath, you gave it the concept, but somebody took it and tweaked it and is now holding a version that you don't possess.
If they use my lyrics, my melody, then I still own full rights to the song. Yes.
Okay, absolutely. All right, okay, wonderful. We were supposed to have a lawyer on the panel who I was really gonna press down on these legal issues with. Would you like to add something?
I have to say, like, there's a big concern, like, on copyrights, when it comes to IP, copyrights, when it comes to AI, right? But as an artist like that creates, it's really important to make sure that when you're creating, whether it's you can write the lyrics, like, if you input the lyrics, like, in the system, right? Choose your prompts, choose everything, but then you need to make sure after that, like, you can add an extra touch, that, because even now with the copyright organizations, like in the US, they said, for example, partially, if a song is generated by AI and also if the human can prove the added value of his work, with that AI, that can be copyrighted, right? So I'm just saying this here because we're gonna go in a world where it's gonna be important as artists, even though you're using these tools to be able to apply your own touch to it and then protect it. I'm sure, like the music industry, people are working on something that would copyright like these AI songs, because it's a huge market. Like we are shifting the trend. What is happening right now is a huge shift, whether it's from the artist side, from the non-artist side, but especially for the artists. The artists are the ones that will, at some point, suffer from it if they don't catch up. Because at some point, if you are an artist, you can even have your own AI artist. That's where things are going. Yeah, that's where things are going. And then if you have your own AI artist, then if people use that, they can compensate you, right? That comes back to the training of models, the compute, the data, and all of that. So yeah, thank you.
I'm going to stay along this line of creativity and ask a question to everybody. In an era where anyone can generate a song in minutes, what becomes the real measure of a creative?
I think what sells will be your personality as the artist. I know that the world is evolving and they are kind of trying to make a lot of people stay indoors, right? By generating AI artists that you go for their concerts indoors, right? So what makes you special will not just be your music, it'll be your personality and your creativity. Thank you.
Yeah, as we said at the beginning, I think AI is still a tool. So I guess it's the way you use it. I found a way to process some very old grandma vocals that were on cassette that I tried to digitalize, and then train AI to learn some words and some vocals, and ask the AI to re-sing the track. As I know the words and I know the sense, I correct it. So I guess there is so many ways. I use it in a way that I'm a guitar player, and so some lines I can start something, and let the AI complete or go from something that it gives. So I guess great artists will remain great artists. Yeah, with the AI. So it depends on the way, and I guess is much more important these days that we keep searching and improve our skills as musicians to stay on top, and the understanding of the machine as well.
I don't know if you guys remember, back in the days, people used to go to record store, take those vinyls, right? And work from it, sample it, right? Create songs. And look at now, older DAW, digital audio workstations. Look at now, like people that are mixing in the box, people that are mastering in the box. Back in the days, a lot of people were hesitant in using those tools. Now, they're all using those tools. Now it's standardized, right? So I think there's also this, if you create a song like using AI, of course, the packaging will be very important. When I say the packaging, for example, you can have an AI artist today, right? That AI artist, how do you model that AI artist? On a fashion standpoint, right? On a sonic standpoint, right? But also, like you said, we will go in a world where I mean, those AI artists will be doing like indoor, concerts, virtual concerts, and VR, and people will pay for it, and they will have access to that. So the packaging will be key, to that. I mean, there's lots of things that can be actually explained around it, but the technicality will be something very important. And as an artist, as a music producer, sometimes I'm just like amazed. Like I've tested lately, like a tool. Like you just mimic your voice instantly. It gives you, and it's true, instantly. It's something new that will blow. But it's just to tell you that the limits are huge, and it's up to us as creatives, like to really tap into this new era. We shouldn't stay behind. I mean, and have that fear. We have to embrace AI and use it to our own way. When I say our own way, look at, for example, if I take the example of a lawyer, an IP lawyer. There's someone here, my friend Yohane. They have their own terminology, right? An artist has its own terminology. If that artist knows how to write a proper lyrics, if that artist knows how to prompt to have, for example, an immersive sound, 24 8-bit sound, 16 bits, or even give that AI that mixing and mastering presets, in terms of EQ. I just want a low cut here. I want a high-end frequency here. I want a mid-range vocal. Put it to 50 hertz. So those are terminologies that the artist, or the person behind the song, needs to have. If he or she wants to create something amazing, I have to say, I'm working on an AI artist.
We'll keep our eyes up for that AI artist. I want to just do a quick recap of the points that were made because they were quite interesting and we heard a lot. The first one was go outside. Like that's how, Guchi, what you said came to me. Yes, things can be created in minutes, but many of your favorite artists, like if you think of a Beyonce, an Olamide, Davido, whomever else in the industry, it's not just their music, it's their personality. It's the fact that you can meet them and talk to them and say hello and give them a hug, or especially with Davido, he'll say something offhanded and that thing now becomes the next trending sound and a meme, and it has absolutely nothing to do with his music. It has to do with the fact that, in another world, I think me and this guy could be friends. and that's enough for me to want to engage with that person. And if you think about friendship, the more you meet someone and you like them, the more you like and want to get to know more about them. So some artists, like I'm sure Gucci, maybe some people might have discovered you through initially seeing you dance or seeing something you did on TikTok, and then they're like, hey, I like this girl, let me follow her. They're like, oh, she makes music. Oh, that song she was dancing to is actually hers. Maybe let me go see what her discography is. So that go outside part, because your personality and the access of human beings to their fellow human beings is something that you can't do online. The other one is to use it as a tool and prompt it with reality. So as you said, Afrotronix, that you take a guitar riff, you put it in as a prompt, and then you allow the AI to take it in many different directions that you may not have time for, or maybe your musical direction and skill wouldn't have initially came to mind. And using that prompt, you now hold that information and tweak it accordingly. And like what you said about the song on a cassette of a grandma singing, something nostalgic and necessary, but the quality of sound is lower. But you could take that information, use that tool to now bring it to life and breathe new life into this thing in a way we haven't had before. And then Boubacar, you said tap in and don't be afraid. Use it in your own way. AI technology is not going away. So if you're afraid of it, the thing is that you're gonna be on the wrong end of history, because inevitably you're going to have to tap in. But why would you tap in 6 years after the fact when everything has been moving, when you could have been at the beginning on the train moving? Now you're trying to catch up to the train and the train is gone and you're missing out on a lot of things, right? And when you're afraid of something, you don't approach it with curiosity. And I think that is what we're saying here, that be curious about this thing. I don't understand it. I'm a little skeptical, but not skeptical enough to not engage. You should engage, see, play around a little, test it out, get an understanding, like, hey, this part of AI, I want no parts of it, but this part, maybe we could work it out, right? And using it and understanding that we wield tools, we hold power over tools, is what's gonna allow us to get the best of this. And as we discuss tools, Afrotronix, I have a question for you, and I think Guchi, I'd like to hear everyone, but we'll go in that order first. You spoke a lot about indigenous knowledge and the protection of indigenous knowledge. What are your thoughts about integrating indigenous knowledge into AI? Or are there certain parts that you would consider maybe AI doesn't need to have everything? Yeah.
Yeah, this is a big challenge. Since I started to play with this, I go fully, I embrace AI, and when it comes to some sacred knowledge and values, it's a challenge for me. There is things in my tribe, my mom's tribe, Sara people, there is some rhythms that are even the populations, they are not allowed to play out of initiation circle. Yeah, and there is some songs as well that we are not allowed to sing out of certain circumstances. So these are values that for me is very important to keep out of this space of sharing, I would say. What is rare, I guess, will be by time things that are not accessible. And I have my kids challenging me, like, do you think that from now to 10 years, would you be able to speak a language that AI won't grasp, or will you be able to tell a story that we won't find anywhere? These are things, I think, are things that are gonna make us distinguish us from the Western world. Was for me, I can surprise any audience in terms of melody and rhythm by going back to my roots. So I think everything is not necessary to share, I would say.
And before we go over to Guchi with the same question, my follow-up to you is then how can, with the way the world is becoming very large and people are leaving home and leaving their tribes, how then do we mitigate against losing these traditions? You know, what are the practices that will allow us to maintain and hold on to these sacred practices generation after generation if we're not necessarily recording it digitally?
There is some pointers. Sometimes I have a hard time to share some thoughts even in Africa. It's about African spirituality as well. We need to reconnect, because I think the African basically are traumatized by colonization and everything that we know, and most of the knowledge we get them from the colonial, I would say, library. And there is knowledge that we choose to neglect, but are so strong. Me now living in North America, I realize the strength of so much traditional knowledge that I ignore. So I'm now connected, and in terms of spirituality, same thing. And it's hard to talk about the spirituality in Africa because we're taken by this very strong religions, Christianity and Islam, and these are like, especially in Chad, in my country, is a big thing. So if you get put in touch with this spirituality, you understand things that you have to protect. Otherwise, the way they make it look like a table, people they lose the value. They have a bad regard, a colonial regard on this amazing and sacred things. So it's to get back to really who we are. Who we are before all this came to us, and to have access, I would say, to the valid knowledge. There is so much knowledge today and accessible, but what would be a valid knowledge, that would be a challenge.
There's someone who I recently was listening to and said we're talking a lot about artificial intelligence, AI, but we need to get back to DI, which is divine intelligence, like these pieces of information that, how did your grandmother know that if you take that leaf and you mash it like this and you mix it like this, your stomach will no longer hurt you? You know, where does that come from? It came from somewhere. You know, these things were not written, these people were not traditionally educated, but they had this knowing and connection to the earth that allowed them to be able to process and gain from the earth the things that it has available to us, you know? So getting back to that, really interesting.
Yeah, and I pushed a lot I'm an electronic engineer, and I'm very interested to any technology, innovations, and since I get to grasp got all this knowledge, and since then when I get back to my uncles, that's how I realize how deep their knowledge is to value. And the thing is to be smart enough to put the ego on the side, to reconsider things so you can have access to this knowledge. And I think this is a démarche process that every African, I do think is important to do, because we have things that the rest of the world don't have, and I don't think there is another way of reconnecting to who we are to make the difference, because very soon everything gonna be available and like just common. But what's gonna make a difference is what you got that the rest of the world don't have.
Yeah, and how you keep it sacred. Guchi, could I ask you the same question around protecting indigenous knowledge and also protecting certain parts of yourself? Like for someone like you now that's online, where we know deep fakes and all of those things happen, are there certain parts of yourself that you choose not to share? And how is it protecting yourself in a place where the more people know about you, the more they want to know about you?
I think being famous or being an artist or being an influencer, somehow, for the sake of originality, you have to still show that part of you that you choose to keep somehow.
Okay.
So in my own opinion, I don't think it's so easy to keep it safe. You know, he said there are certain things that he wouldn't want to put out, but you're not the only person in your community. There are so many other people that would be willing to explore your culture or that thing that is so sacred to you and your community to the outside world. So somehow it's not in our power to keep it safe. So the best that we can do now is to let people know how important it is to us and to Africa.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if they don't respect it, like if they, let's say there's something that you share and you put a boundary around it and people don't respect it, how do you then navigate those situations?
Well, people don't respect it. I think the way you put it out would make them respect it or not. And I think if there is a way that we can exclusively own rights to certain things, if we as the artists, you know, we are able to push out for having exclusivity to certain things, that would be really good. I think that's the only way we can protect what we love.
No, you're absolutely correct. And I think the conversation keeps going back to that policy piece, right? The creators are the creators. The creators are the creatives. technology, IP, all of those things, you possess it, but if there aren't systems in place that ensure that it can be protected, if you have a song and somebody copies the exact song and changes one lyric, besides ranting on the internet about it, who can we go to that actually holds enough power for us to be protected? And I think that is where we need to really, I don't know, lobby or what, because if this is an economy, every other economy, I can't go into the oil and gas, I can't see where it is and go decide to take my bucket and just pour some, grab some crude oil and go and say, oh, I saw it too. But if this is part of our economy, those same types of protections need to be around it. And it's about seeing how, getting those in power to understand how important this is from a human perspective, from a cultural preservation perspective, from a export of goods and services perspective, and essentially a money perspective, because a lot of times that is the deciding factor, and I think that will, as you said, make it a lot easier. Boubacar, I want you to answer.
Add to the point that Afrotronix said that we do need to protect some of the values and some of the knowledge, that we have in Africa. I mean, just to join your point, for example, there's a tribe, there's different tribes, right? But in Senegal, for example, if I take the tribe, the Jola tribes, for example, where I'm from, there's an initiation, that you need to do. For example, you go to the forest, inside the forest, for 10, 15 days, so sometime a month, then they teach, they actually teach you, certain values, certain things, that can't be, generated by AI, right? But still, it needs to be documented, because I think there's a point where we're lacking documentation. For example, certain knowledge are transferred from father to son, mother to daughter, and we're still missing the part of documenting things, So it's very important, even in the music, in the Afrobeat, right? It's now that we're seeing all these documentaries, coming, in terms of storytelling and all, I just wanted to add to that, just to make your point valid. But I have to say, the different rhythms, the different beats, the different sounds, our part, if I take it into the technology that we've built, right, Samix Master, based on the sound frequencies. Of course, it's based on the fact that every sound is specific, but also frequencies are the driving force, of those sounds. All the beats that you're hearing across Africa, every element is different from the other, but we still have. Can you just imagine? Sometimes when I do research, I'm like, okay, here in Nigeria we have talking drum, but that same talking drum is in Senegal, called tama. That same talking drum, I'm sure, it's in Chad with another name. Oja, that Oja flute. We have the same in the Jola tribes, Sometimes I'm like, we're not doing the right research enough, to categorize, all our different instruments, whereas we have same instruments in Africa, So these tools will allow us also, to be able to label, properly these different instruments as well, So there's lots of, I'll say, research and works that needs to be done, and we need to document. Again, we need to document our, I'll say, our instruments, but also our values, at some point. But don't forget another thing. In Africa, we have, like you said, that spiritual knowledge. but sometimes that spiritual knowledge comes through a revelation. You know, it comes through, for example, like, a source of power, you know, that's been in the family, that's been protecting the family, for example, for years, and also, there's certain things that are really rooted in African culture, you know, that can't be transferred in a way, right? It stays in Africa, you know. But then, even though like we have that technology aspect, you know, there's certain things that you can't take out, you know, from who we are, you know, as Africans.
So very inherent. Yeah, round of applause for everyone, please. I'm sorry, I haven't had you guys clapping. Moving forward, as they drop gems, I'll let you guys clap. I'm sorry. Yeah, I think the sacred nature is inherent, and as we said in the beginning, I think everyone had the same sentiment that AI doesn't have emotion. AI doesn't have context beyond what it is given. So there are certain things like, I'm Yoruba, and they say like Ijile, like there are certain things that you can't explain, you can't say, it just is what it is. And if you get it, you get it. If you don't get it, forget about it, you know? So, and those are things that you can't even put into words enough to translate into AI. And if AI doesn't have the context, it doesn't have the information. So I think that's how we're able to protect certain sacred parts of culture and things like that. Boubacar, I have a question for you again. If Africa doesn't define its place in the AI music economy now, what might be at risk 5 years from today?
The risk is huge. And it's already, I won't say like we lost the fight, but we are really behind, but we still have an edge that we could use to catch up, and that edge is our youth. The fact that they are really, really tech savvy. I think we do need to invest more in them, making sure that we can prepare them to take the lead on. And I think that's also what we're doing. For example, I have to mention like an initiative called MBA for Africa, you know, which is now Creative Business Academy for Africa, where we make sure that we equip and train like all these upcoming, you know, artists, creative entrepreneurs, to actually tap into this whole ecosystem of the music industry, but also understand the whole spectrum of it, so that they can have an ownership and build their own thing. So education is something critical, you know, that will come in place. But like in the next 5 years, I think if we don't invest enough in our infrastructure, like we'll still linger behind, and the others will still dictate, you know, how things run. So, which comes back to my point on the policymakers, you know, the leaders, you know, that could actually, you know, drive this. I think the vision, we need to have like a clear vision on where do we want to go, you know, and that will only come with the right investment. And when I say investment, like it's not just investment in terms of money, capital, but knowledge. Knowledge is key, you know, because the next generation, if they are not prepared, because all the tools, all the technology, I'm sorry to say it, I mean, people already have pretty much everything on us, everything. All the phones you use, and you know, they have all your data. Like they know everything on us already. So if we don't make sure that the upcoming generation is prepared enough to know the same, I'll say like this, same knowledge, have the same education, have access to the same tools, to the same technology, so that they can build on top of that, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? So I think it's very important that we make sure to educate, but also to invest and keep that investment open enough to people. Don't make it secluded or like to a certain part of, certain people. So access is key, so let's make sure to have that, and then we'll be able to build something very sustainable in the next 5 years.
Gucci, I have a question for you. As an artist, how can you integrate AI into your creative process?
I feel like I will not be in competition with AI, but I will collaborate with AI.
Mm-hmm.
So,
can we have a round of applause for that? It's not the enemy, it's a tool.
thank you. So anybody that is not willing to evolve, I'm so sorry, the world will leave you behind. So I am definitely going to work with AI, but I'm putting in Gucci, like a Gucci 201. I'll tell this AI exactly what I want. I do not sound like every other person, so definitely I'm working with AI.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely going to be a better artist with AI.
Thank you. Yes, I really like it. What's one risk and one opportunity you believe the industry is underestimating right now? And we can start with Gucci and do it in reverse.
The risk is, if you are not so creative as an artist, you'll be gone.
Yeah.
Gone and forgotten. And an advantage is, if you are a creative artist, you can be better.
I love it. Thank you. Round of applause, please. That was good. Afrotronix.
Yeah, I would say, to be honest, the risk is that we're gonna maybe lose a lot of great artists because they're scared. And that's a fact. They want to stay away, and they're like, a lot of people that I already know start to be like, music is done. I'm moving somewhere else. That's a real risk. So we need to keep informing them that their talent is still valuable. And the advantage is that the fact that we can use AI to make things fast, give us space to give another experience of live shows, and there is so many different tools, like augmented reality, virtual reality. This stuff allow us to focus on the live experience. Because if the audience have access to all these amazing, well-mastered tracks, then why do I have to pay and come and see your show? I think it won't be enough just coming and singing your tracks. People would love to experience something that is more, and I guess you have this time. The fact that AI is giving you the space and time so you can focus on giving a different experience. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for me it's just there's a huge risk, of course, but I think at this stage people will just need to embrace AI, work with it, adapt it, and adapt to it, because things will evolve in a very, very speed way, and the risk, there's a huge risk, in terms of jobs, a huge one. Sometimes it's scary, like when you think about it, but especially like with all these new people like building robots, that will replace, humans like in some areas and all. But in the creative space, if you look at the creative space, like we have something unique, inspiration, creativity, you know. This is something proper to like human beings, right? And that can't be taken out. But that, if it's compiled with AI, can be a rocket. So I'm saying, no need to fear AI, just embrace it and use it as a tool that can properly head your work, Yeah, and if you do it, like you definitely have an edge over the others. A lot of people are not telling you. They are already using AI. A lot of studios, big studios, are not telling you. They are already using AI. Even movie studios, like the big that you can't even imagine, already use AI. But they're not gonna tell you. So it's up to us to hop on the train now before it's too late.
Thank you very much. Can we please get a round of applause for all of our amazing panelists? I think we've learned a lot, and if anything, you just have additional perspective now as you navigate this tool and realize that you are the one who possesses the power to wield that tool however you see fit. Thank you.